In this video, we're going to take a look at the Fill Gaps with Project Batch function available in Cablecast 4.9. So in the main menu of Cablecast, let's go into Batch Functions. And let's take a look at Fill Gaps with Project. So what the Fill Gaps with Project Batch function does is randomly selects shows from a selected project and fills them into a channel for a given date range. And it fills all the gaps in that channel with shows from that project. But before we can use this, we have to make sure the interstitial for the channel we want to fill is set to 0. So let's go to Main Menu, System Settings, Channels, select the channel that we wish to fill, and then select its interstitial length. And we want to set this to 0. Now that that's done, let's take a look at the channel that we want to fill. So in Schedule, under PPAC2, which is the channel we want to fill, we see we have a nice full schedule for this day. It has some gaps, even some bigger ones such as this 18-minute gap, but also some smaller gaps such as this 7-second gap. Our goal is to get this totally filled with programming so there are no gaps left. And for that, we're going to use the Fill Gaps with Project Batch function. So let's go back to the main menu, and let's go to Batch Functions. Fill Gaps with Project. So we're going to select the channel that we wish to fill, PPAC2, and we're going to select a project. I already have one called PSA, which is filled with PSAs and other short material. We're filling tomorrow, so I'm going to select that from the calendar, and I'm going to start at 12 o'clock a.m., and then I'm going to end the fill gap at the same day at 11:59 p.m. So it's going to fill the entire day. So all the gaps in that day are going to be filled with programming from this PSA project. So this last option here, maximum bump time, is an important one. So the way this algorithm works is it determines the length of the gap, and then from this project pulls out all shows that are less than the length of the gap plus this maximum bump time. And this is so that when it randomly selects one, it has some room to bump programs. So we need to set this to a number that works for our station. So the one constraint is you need to have a show in this PSA project or whatever project you choose that is less than this maximum bump time. So if you choose, say, 45 seconds for your maximum bump time, you need to have a show in this project that is less than 45 seconds. And this is so if you end up with a really, really small gap, say like a 1-second gap, you need to be able to fit something in there. So anything less than this maximum bump time, say like a 30-second show, could be used to fill that 1-second gap, and then it would bump the next program by 29 seconds. So that might be a little confusing, but just remember this. You need to have a show in your project that is less than your maximum bump time. Now, there is an exception to that rule. If you leave your maximum bump time set at 0, you don't need to have any specific show lengths in your project, but it won't bump any programs, so it might not fill the end of the gap. So it might leave small little gaps left because it doesn't have shows that it can fit into that gap. So for our use case here, we're going to set our maximum bump time to about 45 seconds. So now that we have all this filled out, we're just going to go ahead and hit the schedule button. Now after the batch function completes, we see we get a report of what happened, and we get all the shows that it scheduled along with the runtime, and anything that it bumped is highlighted in red here. So we can see that we have some shows that were bumped, but nothing was bumped more than 45 seconds. Most of them were actually kind of small, like 30 seconds or 11 seconds. So now that we've done this and we have our report, we can go look at our schedule. And we see that it is completely filled with programming. There are no gaps left. So scroll down to the end of the day, there's lots of PSAs and little filler material. The schedule is completely full. Now this can get kind of confusing for some people. What if you need to actually go change a show out now? Well, it's kind of hard to like find exactly what you're looking for, and then you have to try to fill in the PSA again. You might end up bumping things which would ripple all around. It's kind of a mess. Well, we thought of that. So if we go back to the batch functions, so main menu, batch functions, we can clear filled gaps. So just select the day that you want to, the day or days you want to clear. So I'm going to clear the 24th. Select that channel, and now we can clear all that filler material. So it tells us that it cleared it. If we go back to schedule, we see that the schedule is the way we left it. So that's the fill gaps with project. Now there's another use case for this. Most of our customers are peg stations, but some people just want to do looping video. So here's how you can do that with the fill gaps with project. So I have a project, if I find it, called loop. And we see it, if we look on loop, it only has one show called looping show. So if I go into batch functions, fill gaps with project, I can select this test channel, which is completely empty, and I can select my loop project. And this time I can leave my maximum bump time at 0. And I'm going to fill this entire day. So if I hit schedule now, because there's nothing else there, there's only one show, and I'm not bumping anything, it's just going to play this loop programming back to back to back to back to back. So go ahead and schedule it. You can see it's all starts on the hour or half hour because that show is 30 minutes. And if I go into my schedule and look at that day, which was the 23rd, I can see I filled it all with the one show and it's just looping. So that's an extreme case for the fill gaps with project batch function. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you have any questions, please visit our forum at getsatisfaction.com/TRMS.